The Todd Shapiro Show.
Time to hit the button!
On Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167. The time has come for CEO Profiles.
One of my favorite segments of the week is with this man, the CEO of Lifted Innovations, the man that inspires, the man that we are growing with, we are learning with, as he delves into the CEO space on the capital markets and tech space with Lifted Innovations. And it's always so good to catch up with our friend, Brandon Ward. Hey, Brandon.
Todd. Hello, sir.
Hey, man. Whereabouts are you?
I'm in San Diego, my friend.
How's the weather in San Diego?
A little bit. This is like our winter, quote unquote, in March here, and it's a little overcast, rainy. That's typically about as tough as it gets here, though. So I don't. My time in Toronto, I feel like every time I go up there for a week, my skin picks up. When I get back home, I'm like running around in shirts and t-shirts, and everyone else is bundled up. It's funny to watch, man.
Yeah, no doubt. It's funny to see you just dealing with it because you're not really prepped with the Canada Gooses and stuff. Brandon Ward, of course, is one who documents everything going on in terms of his role as a CEO, and he's really, just an amazing sort of pontificator on the process. And I don't think I've asked you what do you attribute your success to? Your success. I mean, we've talked a lot about what you're doing and your expectations and your managerial skills and your way of not micromanaging. But, what do you attribute your Brandon Ward's success to?
Honestly, Todd, for me, I grew up in West Virginia, and the culture there is, good, honest, hardworking people, humble beginnings, and just a tenacity to learn and grow, and just refusing. I kind of have almost an impulsive positivity. It's got me in trouble at some points because sometimes it can cloud my lens. I've learned to bring a healthy level of skepticism, but no matter what challenges life has thrown at me, which growing up with humble beginnings in a place like West Virginia, which is rural and not a lot of developing markets, it's been cold, very limited opportunities. But just for me, man, I just saw how hard my parents worked, and I always appreciated that. I've carried that with me, and I've used the experiences, all the challenges and struggles that we face, because everyone faces them, right? It's just a variety of the level and the difference, and what that is based on an individual level is different. But for me, it's just always trying to find that silver lining and recognizing that life's trying to show us something, man. I'm a spiritual dude, so I believe that the vision that I carry inside of me, the struggles that I've had, it's always been preparing me for something more. So for me, Todd, honestly, living in California on my own, making connections, connect the company that I'm running now and building, all these things have been attributed to my tenacity and from the humble beginnings, man. So it's about knowing who I am and understanding what's important and pursuing it.
We've talked in the past about sort of books and being well read and having time to compartmentalize and focus on reading. Are there business books that you really recommend to people as well that help maybe guide you and back to the attributing you to success, is that maybe you learned some things and little pieces of nuggets of information from somewhere else?
Yeah, dude. One of my favorite books, Todd, is a book called Mindset by Carol S. Dweck. It's a psychological book, but it's all about the difference between the fixed mindset and a growth mindset. I didn't realize, for me personally, how much I had even as an adult. I read this just a little bit over a year ago, and I devour information. Actually, a great app that I recommend everyone to check out is an app called Scribed. I'm not paid by them, but it's a great audio book, and I just want to make sure that I'm not plugging in like that. But, dude, it's spectacular. They have a lot of audio books, and so I use that app all the time. But Mindset, Todd, it's the distinction between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And the mindset mentality says that I learn from all my mistakes. There is no limitation on my growth. That if I'm willing to put the time in and the effort and the dedication to evolve and grow, I can grow my mindset no matter what that focus may be, whether it's a musical instrument, whether it's entrepreneurialism, whether it's accounting, whether it's sports. It doesn't really matter. If you're willing to learn, to grow, and dedicate yourself, that you can get there. And that they give specific examples, and it's supported by science, dude. So that book, when I read it, it blew my mind. There was actually an image in there that I had blown up, printed out, and framed, and it's up in my living room because it was so impactful for me. So I literally look at it every day as a reminder.
Brendan Ward from Lifted Innovations, technology company. And, I think of CEOs often, whether they're young or old or a man or a woman or whatever, any race, but reading a lot about business, picking up the business section in newspapers, going through business weeklies, following, Bloomberg's and the business sites. Is that a big part of what you do?
For me, not so much. Like, I follow what I've done just because there's so much information. And I know you're aware of this, man, because you're very active in social media. And we talk about this often, like in our private conversations, just the level of distraction that exists in our world and how crazy it can be. But for me, what I do is I curate. I sign up with a few email lists that I have them show me specific information to companies that I follow. Other than that, man, I allow my reading and to be dictated by books and thought leaders that I appreciate. I'm always looking to find practical information that can be applied in the real world. And for me, man, I'm not a big fan of the self-help world per se. I think there's a lot of fluff in there and a lot of rehashed things that I think really you can get freely on the internet. But for specifically to business, I love looking at real world examples where principles can be applied to successful situations. That's what I look for, is principles and then applications in our current situation, especially for me running a company.
What's an example of some principles?
Well, it's how you build a company, the structure that you do, the vision that you have potentially, right? The way you manage your team, right? So a principle that I could think of now is like even what you were saying earlier, right, about the micromanaging aspect. I think setting clear expectations or objectives and then allowing your team to go about doing that as opposed to micromanaging. So that, to me, that's a principle of I'm going to trust my team and lean on their expertise. So that's like a principle. And then you apply that by saying, I'm going to give them guidance on what I hope to achieve and then let them utilize their expertise to come up with possibilities and solutions for me. And then we get together and make a decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally makes sense. You allow your team to sort of do what they're doing, and then at that point, if there is a little bit, I don't want to necessarily say the word disagreement, but if there's sort of another contrarian thought to what they came up with, then you'll figure out what might be best for the company, but you'll let them go at it first as opposed to just sort of telling them what to do. What's the point of hiring people just to tell them what to do if they don't bring any of their own thought processes to the table, which is their expertise and knowledge,
totally.
Which is probably why you hired them in the first place, right?
Exactly, man. Exactly. And you touched on a very important one right there is what, like, allowing people to make those decisions. And that's a principle is disagreement. Like, you want to be, from my perspective, it's great when my leaders and people on my team are disagreeing with me or having contrarian viewpoints, not just to be contrarian, but you get into it's a dangerous situation to be in an organization or startup company or whatever it is, when everyone's in agreement all the time, because they might be drinking the Kool-Aid and that might not be what the market's actually saying. So it's very good to be able to disagree. I think that's a quality of a healthy organization, is the fact that leaders can disagree with one another and use that information. Pounding the table and getting into some heated arguments has happened frequently in our company, but the best solutions have come out of that, which is really cool.
Brandon Ward from Lifted Innovations. Are there times where you may notice younger employees, or maybe not even younger, maybe newer employees, that actually you can tell want to speak up, say something that might be different to what maybe the rest of the team's saying or what's the majority, but they might have an opposing thought or maybe just an additional aspect to that thought to help grow it a little bit more, but maybe actually get intimidated by that? And if so, how do you sort of, so to speak, it's an old corny phrase, but, get them out of that, get them out of their comfort zone a little bit?
Yeah, totally. And naturally, when you first hire someone new, in my mind, there's always typically a 1 to 2 month transitional period where they're learning and assessing and just absorbing So I never expect someone to like come in and immediately kind of contribute like in a really, I mean, people can do that, right? But it's expected for that they're going to learn. So the fact that they might be a little reserved in the beginning is expected. But the key thing for me, Todd, is leading by example. I think when we're in our meetings, showing that others can speak up about maybe an idea that I have that they think might not be the right move, or why there might be a piece of information that I'm missing, and seeing how I interact with that. So welcoming that type of dialogue and engagement in an open group setting shows that I'm not just saying that I actually walk the talk. And you just got to show people. And I think over time, it becomes something that they establish, and they become more confident and comfortable in their role and with the full kind of view, then they'll share. And honestly, it happens a lot. I mean, one of our, I don't know if he's listening now, but one of our most outspoken members on our team is actually the youngest member on our team. He just has really strong views, and his viewpoints are very strong though. Like, so he speaks up, which I think is great, man, because we've got a lot of gold out of him as an entry-level guy. We've actually since promoted him since we started because he's been hustling, but kudos.
Very cool to know. No, I think that's, very encouraging for employees of any age, though, and especially younger ones, is that don't, especially if you have something to offer, you're hired in the first place. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to compromise what you really truly believe is in the best interest of the company. And maybe just, I think what I would advise anyway, my sort of more of a limited experience of business, but don't take it personally if they just don't agree with that. But, don't then be shy and not continue to do that. What about Brandon? I got to ask Brandon Ward from Lifted Innovations with our CEO profiles and a man we're really documenting and following this process as he grows this company. What's it like for you at times to watch your employees say, like, during the lunch breaks, during the little bit of a downtime, maybe at an event where you're out and there's a drink or two involved, are people feeling comfortable these days in front of other employees to open up, talk about politics, talk about maybe the love of UFC, which some find controversial? Is because I know that a lot of, at least in the world that I'm sort of study a lot, which is social media, people are afraid to talk about politics, or afraid what their employee might think of them if they say, hey, I like that Trump went and met Kim Jong-un, and if I guess what I'm getting at, I'm asking you a million questions here, but do you encourage your employees to really just be true to them?
Yeah, for sure, man. And we honor that, dude. Like, Todd, I'm a very outspoken guy. I limit that personally just because I don't want to create distractions. I encourage the team to talk. We actually have in our Slack, we have a politics channel where people can openly just bring up the things that are relevant or that they think is important. And there are a lot of people on our team that have differing viewpoints, which is great, man. You want kind of diversity of thought. I think it's very important. The big difference is, though, man, and be respectful but disagree. But the key is to be respectful. Like, don't be dismissive of another's viewpoints. If you feel differently, elaborate on why that is and use reasoning, right? That's always my thing. And that's the same way when we're working through ideas, is be respectful, but if you disagree, that's the thing. So there's a diplomatic way to go about doing it. And what I find is that there are people, like, might seem kind of silly, but there's a cats versus dogs deal that I see happening a lot in our random chats. And there's strong cat people on our team and there's strong dog people on our team. They do not waver on their beliefs on which side they're on, but they respect each other and have some fun with it. And that's what it's about, is like just being respectful of other people's viewpoints, even though it's different than your own.
Yeah, I'm on the dog team, and then my wife made me get a cat, and so I just love cats now, Brandon. That's what I tell everyone. I just love cats. Let me tell you, being in a space, tech and lifted innovations, from tech to cannabis and all that kind of stuff. Is it? Yep. I mean, do you try not to be too corporate either? Because there's just a cool factor based on what the industries that you're in are.
Yeah, we are staying true to that because it is very important. That's attractive for the talent that we bring into on our team. And with that being said, this is a very exciting industry. ultimately, man, it's about accountability, and that's something that we found is there needs to be some structure to at least from an accountability perspective. So you'll have project owners who lead projects, who individuals are owning that aspect, and then they work with the various stakeholders who are connected to that so that there's some clear line of communication and there's not overstepping of responsibilities. That's a big thing for us. So the culture, the openness, the relaxed element is definitely there. The entertainment, the fun, man, like I want people on our team to have fun. That's, to me, why I believe we have so much hard work and dedication on our staff is because they enjoy the people that they're working with. They enjoy the vision that we have as a company, that what we're looking to achieve. It's a very, very big vision. So having the chance to build something special and be a part of something ground up is very exciting for a lot of people. So you got to honor that. But you do need some formalized structure in the sense of timelines, accountability, and who's doing what so that there's clear communication in the organization so that you're not – because total democracy in an organization can become problematic if you're allowing everyone to just do whatever they want because everyone's going in a million directions. So you do need some centralized authority in that sense, but there's a democratic aspect to the process of getting to that ultimate decision.
Well, listen, man, I always love catching up with you, and I think everyone really appreciates the candidness. Nice to be on the phone with the CEO you're not intimidated by, and I think that's really important in kind of this new day and age where it's okay to show vulnerabilities, but most importantly, and I think people totally understand that from these chats, is respecting the shared knowledge and sort of the big brain and also the vision. And I think the combination of it all is just wonderful. Brandon Ward from Lifted Innovations, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thanks, Todd. Yeah,
awesome,
dude.
Man.
I appreciate it, man. As always, listen, one final thought before I get off here, Todd, is like I'm the collection of my whole team, right? I just happen to be the mouthpiece there. So it doesn't help as a leader if you deny all that wisdom in there, man. So I always appreciate the chance to tell my story. So, Todd, I'll talk to you next week, buddy. Have a good rest of your week, all right?
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.